Dad. This is Easter Sunday, 1981, Elmwood, Nebraska, at Donna and Boyd Clement's house. And we're going to try to get a little rundown on history. And Dad, I want you to start with Grandpa A.O.'s dad and mother. What were their names? And then list all the 10 kids. Give me all those 10 names.
Oh,
Let's see, now what was Grandpa A.O.'s dad's name?
Olaf
Olaf.
Anderson.
Okay, and his
As I
mother.
remember it.
And then his mother. What was his mother's name?
By golly, I don't know.
You're not supposed to swear on that.
I just said by golly.
Well, okay, let's go on
Don't
down.
turn your rear end up.
Was I? Well, Dad, that's on the TV. You dumb nut. Well, listen. Okay, let's start with the 10 kids. We're probably going to have to really redo this thing. Okay, name the 10 kids.
Granddad, his name was Olaf Anderson.
Yes. Then, okay, how many kids were there? And give all their
There was
names.
10, I guess. It was Olaf and Uncle John and Dad and Peter, Nels, and Per, and Auntie Annie, and Auntie Ellen, and Aunt Emma. How many is that?
Gosh, I don't know. I didn't have my fingers.
Well, you was up there with your fingers and thought you was counting, for heaven's
Okay.
sake.
Well, which ones came to the United States then? And
First,
yes, or
Aunt
yes.
Annie and Uncle Olaf.
Well, then who did they come and visit, or?
Hmm?
I mean, where did they go when they came to the United States? Who did they visit? Or somebody had to sponsor them, didn't
That I
they?
couldn't answer. Who sponsored it?
Well, but where did they come to? Chicago, or?
I think Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did they have any kids?
See, did I get them all? You count 'em. See if we got 10.
Okay.
There was Uncle Olaf
Uh-huh.
and Dad, Andrew,
Mm-hmm.
and Uncle John. They were here in this country, and Auntie Ellen
Yes.
and Auntie Annie.
Okay.
That's 5 that ever got over to this country. The rest of them never got here.
Well, those 5 came to the
Yeah.
United States, right?
Yeah, and then there was Peter and Nels,
Pear.
Per, Auntie Emma,
Who's the 10th one?
Gummit, did I forget it?
Was that 10? Oh, I can't count then.
Well, you never could.
True. Okay,
That's
well,
10.
all right. Well, then the 5 that came, the others just stayed in the old country, so
Yeah.
you didn't know anything about their kids
No.
or children or where they lived or, well, what was the town Grandpa A.O. was from?
Oh, that was a little town of Herby in the southern part of Sweden.
In what county? Was it Småland or
No, he was a Skåne.
Skåne?
That was right on the tip end. He could see Germany on a nice clear day.
Oh, is that right?
And Mother, she was a Småland. She'd come over. And she was farther north in the poorer country. Dad was in the best part of Sweden.
Oh.
That is agriculturally.
Uh-huh.
And Mother was further north. Dad come over here and he was about 15 in order to get away from the army. He didn't want to have to go serve in the army, so he scooted out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Mother, I think, was only about 6 months old when she come. Her and her mother.
Just her mother came?
Her and her mother, yeah.
Well, where was her dad? I didn't know that. Did he die in the old country or something?
He must have.
Don't really know, huh? Well, anyway, Grandpa came over here, what, when he was 15?
Yeah.
Then,
Landed in Wahoo.
well, who sponsored him up at Wahoo then?
And God, I don't know who sponsored.
Was it
Maybe
Ole
didn't have to
Anderson?
have any sponsor in those days, as far as I know.
Oh, maybe not.
And he walked around trying to get a job, and he couldn't talk English. And he come night, I remember he said, and went out into a stack of hay.
And slept?
And, yeah, dug a hole in the stack of hay.
Yeah.
And
He was only 15 years old?
15 or 16.
Oh.
He left Sweden. He said he didn't want to go to the army.
Yeah.
They thought money grew on trees over here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he cried himself to sleep. And he couldn't get a job. But finally he did get a job.
Where, in Wahoo, you mean?
Around Wahoo there. He didn't like it there very good. For some reason or other. And he rode an old mule clear down to Peterson's here at Waverly.
Where'd you get the old
On a
mule?
Sunday. From where he was working, he rode an old
yeah.
mule
Yeah,
from Wahoo.
yeah, so what did he do then?
25 miles down there and then back. And he got a job and they hired out by the year. In those days, you know, practically like a slave, see.
Mm-hmm.
And he hired out to Peterson's for a year.
Which Peterson was that?
Emil Peterson.
Oh, Emil?
Or
Okay.
Emil Peterson's dad.
Yeah.
And Pete Peterson, I believe his name was.
Yeah.
And then after he worked for Peterson's,
Did he work on the farm then for
Yeah.
a year?
yeah, for a whole year.
Okay.
Then he went to Omaha. And learned the carpenter trade.
What did
And
he do?
he was in Omaha learning the trade when that old blizzard of '88. He
Yeah.
said when he walked home from work, he just couldn't hardly find his way home. Always said the old snow come down there big as half a dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he said.
Who do you apprentice?
Huh?
Who do you apprentice under up there? Or did he stay with some friends or something up there, or did he stay with the apprentice? that was
No,
teaching?
no, he didn't have any friends up there that I know of. He just went up there and got a job and went to work and stayed there till he learned the trade.
Yeah. Gee.
And then he come back to Lincoln and went to work.
Now, how old was he then?
Oh, I don't know, it was before he's married. Somewhere or other he went to some church doing. He was going to church all the time.
We're in Lincoln, and that's where he met Grandma.
That's where he
Dennis?
met Mother.
Yeah.
And some church doings, you know.
Uh-huh.
And he said that he worked some contractor on some of the university buildings. I forget the name of the contractor he worked for. That might come to me after a bit.
Yeah.
And then this contractor he worked for at the university, one of the big rich guys by the name of C.C. Burr, built a big house out there just south of the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
And just the porch in those days cost $4,000. And it was a circular porch, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy sent Dad over.
How come? Why?
Because he was one of the best carpenters he had, I guess. And I remember Dad said he showed me the porch that he built.
Yeah.
And cost $4,000 in those days. That was a lot of dough.
Sure.
And then he went to work on the old Lincoln Hotel, and he was a foreman there, I guess. He said he was the first man hired and the last man fired
Is
on
that
the
right?
old original Lincoln Hotel.
The one on 9th?
Yeah, between Old and P Street.
Uh-huh.
And that's where he worked. And
Well,
then
was he still single then, when he was doing that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, then he met Mother.
Well, no, but didn't he go back to the old country before he ever got married?
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that.
Oh, his dad used to be a sheriff at one time.
In Lincoln?
No, in the old country.
Oh, Grandpa A.O. did?
No, his dad.
Oh, yeah.
My grandpa.
Okay.
Olaf Anderson, no, that was my granddad's name. He was a sheriff at one
Mhm.
time. But then he got a little too, he bought too many things. He got out on a limb.
Mm-hmm.
And by gosh, so they sold him out. So he wrote to Dad and wanted to know if he couldn't borrow some money.
Uh-huh.
So Dad, at that time, Uncle John was here, and Uncle Olaf, and Auntie Ellen, and Auntie Annie. And he borrowed some money from every one of them. You know, they all saved their money in those days, believe me. And every one of them sent some money home. I forget how much. But anyway, when Dad got his money back, it was $500. So I presume maybe the rest of them said 500 too, for all I know.
Oh, yeah?
But anyway, they decided that Dad should take it back.
Uh-huh.
So he took the old boat, you know, that's the
Yeah.
only way they had to go. And he went home and he got there the day of the sale. And what's the matter? My head itches.
You get nervous.
And it's all there. You know, it's a sale.
Yeah.
Have an auction, sell him out. And Dad, he was there. In the meantime, he'd grown a big, long, old handlebar mustache, you know. And time, I suppose he was probably 18 then,
Uh-huh.
about 2 years after he left. And he went back with this cash to help his dad, you know, buy some of the stuff back. And so they're going to sell him out.
Mm-hmm.
He got there at noon, out the farm. I don't know whether he walked out there. I know he didn't ride a motorcycle because it didn't happen. So he went in the house and his mother was standing by the cook stove and he run up and wanted to kiss her, see.
Yeah,
Had a little old mustache.
yeah.
She hollered at Granddad, says, "Get out here," says, "there's some drunk guy trying to kiss me." And I guess Granddad was in the other room.
Yeah.
And he come running out there, and he took one look, and I guess he had an idea. He says, "Andrew."
Yeah, he recognized him.
Yeah. Well, and then Dad bought back. He asked his dad what he wanted. He bought back everything he wanted.
Yeah.
Set him up. Dad never got his money. Oh, he was living up on the farm in Waverly.
Is that right?
Yeah, I can remember. Dad sent him the money. I don't know whether it was... I can't remember whether he was still living then or it was after he died he got the money. I can't remember for sure, but anyway, he got some money. Dad didn't want it. He wanted him to keep it. But
Yeah.
it wouldn't. Well, I guess it must have been when he died. Auntie Emma, his sister was over there, said no. He wanted to pay them all off. So, Auntie Ellen, Dad wanted Hazel and Dessa, so their mother was dead. He wanted them to get the money back. Uncle Olaf would, I guess, and all the rest of them. But Uncle John never sent any money. He was the only one
that right?
didn't send any money.
Mm-hmm.
And
He talks about love.
but Hazel and Dessa wouldn't do it. So none of them sent it back. Hazel and Dessa said they wanted them to have it, so they just kept it. And I think it was $500.
Uh-huh.
Each one of them kept $250 apiece. And Dad set him up, and then he come back. Dad said he used to smoke a cigar once in a while, and he said when he was coming into the New York Bay on the big old boats,
Was this when he came back after being
yeah,
over
after
there?
being home, he said he took out the last cigar, threw the old box in the ocean, and smoked it, and that was it. That was, he quit smoking. That
Never
was
smoked again.
the whole works, yeah. They never smoked no more. I don't know. Let's see.
Well, but I thought he went back to the old country
He went back
again.
twice. Once just before he's married again. I think that was the time he threw the cigar away.
Oh, the time, the
Yeah.
second time he...
The second time he went over, just before he married Mother. He
Well, how-
made one trip back to Sweden.
Just for fun, or what was it? For
Yeah, just for a visit, I guess. And Dad was for going in.
And then how old was he then, do you know? Do you
Oh, I
remember?
don't know. I don't know how old Dad was when he got married.
I don't either. Well, I suppose we'll have to hunt up some of those dates. We could
And
also-
Leo was born in 92, so it had to be before that.
Well, let's see, what year was Grandpa Abel born?
Dad was born in 66,
1866.
1866, and
December
Mother was born
20.
in 1870.
And who was born in 1870?
Me?
Oh, you were born in 1870.
I said mother was born in 1870.
Okay.
I was 30 years younger than mother. Mother was 30 years old when I was born.
I see.
I was born in 1900. She was born in 70.
Okay, well then, okay, so we don't really know what year they got married then. They got married in Lincoln or Waverly?
Waverly. They was the first ones married in the Waverly Church. The old wooden Waverly Church.
Well, is that the one Grandpa A.O. built? The old
No,
wooden
no,
one?
no, no. The one he tore down, Dad built the one that's there now in 1915 or 16. Finished it up in 16, I think it was.
Okay, so they were married the first ones married in the old wooden church.
Yeah, they were the first ones married.
Well,
in
was that on the same corner
same spot?
that the one that is now?
Well,
Wow.
the old brick church,
Yeah,
not the new one.
no, not
The
no,
old
not the
one,
new.
that's made over in apartments, yeah.
Well, what year were they married then?
Well, it must have been about 1890, somewhere along like that, 91.
Okay, then
But
what-
Leo was born in 92.
Leo was born in 92.
Really?
And then, okay, now let's back up.
No, wait a minute, I'm telling you wrong. 94, Leo was born. And Vera was born in 96. And I was born in 1900.
100. Then
Squire was born, Merrill was born in 1906.
Then Francis.
January, and Francis was in August in 1910.
Okay, well then, okay, where were Grandpa and Grandma living when Leo was born? Where were they living? Were they up north on the farm or whatever?
Oh, no, no. I don't remember. I believe they lived up Fontanelle, up north of Fremont.
On the farm, right?
Yeah, Uncle John and Dad was tried farming for a year or so.
Did they just rent a farm up there?
Yeah, they just rented a farm. How they landed up there, I don't know.
Then, well, then where did they go? How old was Vera born up there too then, at Fontanelle?
I don't know, maybe Leo was born, I think so. I'm not sure, but one of them was born in Fontanelle. That's up, I've never
that'd
been to
be-
that. I don't want to go up to that young town, see what it's like.
Yeah.
Never been there.
Well, okay, so we don't know whether Vera was born at Fontanelle then or not, do we?
I don't know, we'll have to ask Francis.
Yeah, you know what? We really should have had Francis down to do this.
Oh, telephone's ringing here. Hello?
Well,
Well, if they think that.
hey, well, Dad, okay. So then when they left Fontanelle, where'd they go? Did they come to Waverly?
I think so. They must have come along.
I know, but they lived north of Waverly on the farm, didn't
Oh,
they?
yeah, Grandma Johnson had a farm.
Well, where was
80
that?
acres of land. That's where I was born.
Well, now, where was that, Dad?
Oh, that was, let's see, 4 miles north and a mile and 3/4 or a mile and a half west.
Of what? Of the road going?
Going north out of Waverly.
Okay. Whose
Or-
farm? And then Grandma Johnson owned that?
Yeah.
Well, then what'd they do with that farm? I didn't know
I
that.
think Mother and Dad must have bought it from them.
Did they
Gra-
sell it then?
Yeah, and then they sold it and come to Waverly. But Dad had a hardware store. He was running a hardware store in 1900 when I was born because he was supposed to get home and because he didn't pay much attention to me whether I was showing up or not.
Yeah.
He had to stay and tend to business, see, and he was
Yeah.
late. He didn't get home when I was born. And I was just like Topsy. I don't know whether Mother was home or not.
God. Yeah, what was it? You weighed 12 pounds? And-
12, between 12 and 13. They didn't have a doctor, you know, they just hatched them out. And had a, what they call a midwife.
Yeah, sure.
And I weighed between 12 and 13 pounds. That was Mother's first new house. I don't know what they lived in, but it must have been some old kind of a shack.
Uh-huh.
But Dad built her a new house on that farm.
We did.
After yeah, and that's where I was born, you see, in the new house.
Yeah, but how long did you live there then?
Till I was 4.
Was that the time Grandma threw you out the wagon?
Oh, we'd come to town one day. She had to go to town, and she had an old spring wagon, you know, a buckboard,
Yeah.
you know, like they see in the western shows, an old buckboard. And so mother, she wasn't scared of the devil himself, as far as horses were concerned, you know.
Uh-huh.
And she had a colt that had been driven a few times, and she had a steady old horse. See? And it was colder than Billy Thunder, and she had me all bundled up and starting town, and that tongue came down out of that neck yoke, you know.
Yeah.
The tongue was just sticking in the dirt, and she was afraid to go one way or the other, and it tripped the horse, and the horse would run away. So she thought the best thing to do was get rid of me, and so out the ditch I went. And maybe that's what's wrong with me, a bit nutty. And
How old were you when she did that? Do you
well, I
know?
don't know, I was just a little baby bundled up, probably a year.
Well, then did she get the horse to stop?
Yeah,
then?
she stopped the horses, put up the tongue, and then back in the ditch and picked me up. And those days, you know, dirt roads.
Oh God! I
Picked me
guess.
up, but I had so many blankets on, I don't know whether I even woke up.
Well, where was Leo and Vera then? How come she was coming to town with you alone?
I don't know, I just don't remember why, but anyway, we was going to town. She straightened the rig up, and to town we come. I can remember this, and that was before we come to town when I was 4. Dad used to tell me spooky stories, you know,
Yeah.
about ghosts.
Yeah.
And mother put me to bed. She had them great big old wicker clothes baskets, and she had it all heaped up full of clothes, and I woke up in the middle of the night and it was moonlight. And I saw that, and I said, there's a bear. There's a bear. Dad told me bear stories.
Yeah.
Boy, I wouldn't even go in that room in the daytime.
You wouldn't.
Oh, no. That's what Mother said. She had an awful time with me. Boy, there's bears in there. And,
Now that was on the farm.
yeah. And I can remember Dad played Santa Claus, too, up there. He'd come in with his big old fur coat, and I can remember, you know, that's the only Christmas he played Santa Claus that I remember, you know, up there.
Uh-huh.
One of my first ones that I can remember.
Uh-huh.
Then we come to town.
You moved.
We lived with grandmother for a year.
You mean the house where I lived? You mean the old
The
house?
old house where you kids lived there. So we lived
Okay.
there probably a year before we could get another house. Then we moved over there in that house where Earl Smith lived, you know, across the street from M.A. Carlson South.
Okay.
And we moved in there a year.
Now, who all kids lived there then? Was Squire and Francis born then?
No, Francis wasn't born. The Squire wasn't. Just Leo, Vera, and I.
Okay.
And we lived there a year. Dad brought 2 old cows to town with him.
You kept them right there at Grandma Johnson?
You know, with Adamses had a pasture, and we'd keep them up in the pasture and then bring them home at night. And Topsin Jane was the name of them. And we had those 2 old cows in the milk. And
But Grandpa A.O.
then
was...
he was building the big house on the farm.
I see.
And then we moved up there. See, we'd lived in that old house a year. And then moved up to the big house, and about the first of the year, 1905, 6, I mean. And then Squire was born there. See, just a few
Yeah.
days later, 14 days after we got up there. Squire was born. And we lived there for a good many years, you know.
Till when?
Oh, we lived there till,
Yeah, well, just be like thinning your garden.
Have you ever done that, Agnes?
oh, about 1923, and then Dad moved to Lincoln. You know, he went back into contracting after he went broke.
Yeah, don't they do that?
You know, and I farmed.
Well, tell about his one. Well, when did he go broke, or what happened there?
Oh, 19. See, Dad run the implement house in Waverly and hardware store and sold buggies and furniture and everything you could think of.
Yeah, but didn't he sell cars too at that time?
Yeah, he took on a Ford. He had a Ford agency.
Yeah, and was but
And
didn't
he sold the Fords, and then he sold out the Ford to Joe Reiner, and then he took on the Carter car and the Crit, and
What kind?
what we call a Crit. I think it's made by Studebaker. Oh, he was selling several cars. Carter car, Mets,
In the Mets?
and the
Yeah,
Crits.
yeah, but didn't he have the first cars there, Dad, or have I got that wrong?
Oh, you're wrong on that. Oh,
Who had the first car,
First
Roger?
automobile that's ever come to Waverly that was owned by anybody was that fellow by the name of Oscar Shore. He was a jeweler man. We had a man in Waverly that fixed watches and clocks
Yeah?
in those days, you know. And Oscar Shore had the first old two-cylinder car, and the name of it was a Glide, Glide. And you could, two bolts held the back seat on. If you didn't like it, well, it had a seat in this corner and a seat in this corner, and your little door to get in the back end,
Oh, you got in from the back?
in the back. And if you wanted to make a roadster out of the thing, you just two bolts, took them two bolts off, set it aside, and you put on the turtle, and then we had a roadster out of the thing. And William Jennings Ryan was going to come to Waverly to speak, and Oscar Shore drove that old two-cylinder
Yeah?
and drove clear to Lincoln, brought him back to town, and he gave a speech in Waverly, and I was about knee-high to a duck.
Yeah?
And I remember I went up there to listen to him. I can't remember what he was talking about, but old Snoopy me, I had to be there, you know.
Yes.
And they took him back, and we were the last ones to own that thing. Dad traded it. Some fellow by the name of Ward's, two brothers had it, and they traded it in for
Now this is for science, huh?
For a new car from Grandpa, you mean?
no, they traded in the thrash machine for a gasoline engine and one thing and another. Dad got the steam engine and the thrash machine, and this old automobile, and us kids, we run the thing around until we wrecked it, see? And it sat out behind the corn crib till it just rotted down. I'd have gave anything if I had that thing today.
Gosh, think what that'd be worth.
Yeah, it was the first one in town, and we had it last one, and we junked it.
Well, where did I get the idea that I thought the car was Grandpa Ao's?
That was his first car.
That was his first
That
car,
was
but
his
I
first
thought
car.
he sold it.
He had the agency. The reason he took on the agency, he could get it cheaper,
Sure.
you know, wholesale. And he owned a car agency in Lincoln.
When was that?
Oh, about 1916, 17.
Well,
No, it was later than that. It was after 1912, that's right.
Well, then I'm getting mixed up. How could he have the hardware store in Waverly and the car agency in Lincoln?
Oh, he run everything. He was into everything.
He run-
Farming and contracting, and run the hardware store. And he had Oscar Anderson and Nils Buffin and Mother and you name it, working for him, and he was doing everything. He was a
Wheeler dealer.
wheeler and dealer, I'm telling you. Trading for cows, horses, thrash machines, and you name it. He was a wildcatter. Wheeler and dealer, I'll tell you.
Well, then was it the car you learned to drive that you drove up against the tree, or was that Grandma A.O.?
No. Dad had this agency in Lincoln. See, we had the Carter car,
Yeah.
and he sold Metzes and Carter cars, and he had the agency, and it was in the building at 1620 O Street. That was the,
What's there now? 1620.
I don't know what's in that building, still there.
The same building is still there?
Yeah, 1620 O Street. That
And
was
so he had what? All of these cars?
these
in it?
cars, and he Metzes. And he decided he wanted this little roadster. And it was spanking red, you know. Had kind of a cloth windshield with some isinglass up here about that wide to see
Yeah.
through. And it was a friction drive thing, just like the old Carter car. And he got it home. We all run out to see the thing, and he went to shut it off, and he couldn't find the switch. Shut it off. And we hunted, and we couldn't find it. So we decided to run it up against the post. we run it up against the post and killed the engine. And we were sitting there eating supper. And I said, I believe I saw a little place where you shut it off. Well, Dad said, why didn't you say something? Well, I said, I didn't suppose that amounted to anything, but it didn't have a battery. Everything started on the magneto. You
Yeah.
know? Didn't have batteries in those days, just a magneto. And right on the dash was a little crank. about that long.
Yeah.
With a little handle on, just a little bit of thing. And it was sticking out like that, and right up at the top was a screw. You just push that thing up against the screw and it shorted it out.
Oh,
See? And then when you want to crank it, you just pull
Turn
that
it on,
crank
then
down
go
away.
out and crank it.
Went out and cranked the thing and had a wire here where you goosed it, you choked it,
Yeah.
you know. You needed to. Oh, that was a running thing. It had 22 horsepower. That's what they call it. 22. And, it would go like something. It would go way faster than a Model T. It would go 50, 60 miles an hour.
Well, good. I didn't
Yeah.
think any car went that fast.
Oh, Ford would only go about 45 with a tail wind, you know. But this thing would go pretty fast, because Francis Rivera, there was a fellow out north south of town, he had bought a big Hudson, and he come to town with that thing, you know, and he went to go home, so Vera got in the car, she said she's going to show him a thing or two, so they got in a race out towards Bray Home. Vera passed him. That great big old car, I don't know how much money it cost, but anyway, Vera, she passed him. Going to show him a thing or two.
How old was Vera then? Was she still?
Oh, she was probably about 16 or 17.
Did Grandpa let her drive it?
Well, I drove the car when I was 12. You didn't have to have a
Oh, you could just
driver's
go away?
license. I drove the thing all over when I was 12, 13 years old.
He let you go downtown and everything?
Well, I took the ball team before I was 15, the school baseball team, and went to play.
Where would you
We
go?
went over to Prairie Home that time.
Oh, clear over there?
Yeah, clear Prairie Home. And then Bill Carlson, he had an Oakland. And he had a car full. And we come down Adams's Hill. That's about where the overpass is now. We call it Adams's Hill.
Yeah.
And we got in a race. And I was sitting way down behind, looking through the spokes. I was that little.
Yeah.
And by golly, he had an Oakland and I had the old Carter car, and we both had a carload of kids. Dad had caught me a racing or had a wreck. It had been the end of me, boy. But we had a race there, but he passed me. It had a little more speed than the old Carter car. The Carter car was too big and heavy. For some reason or other. And, oh, we used to have a heck of a time.
Well,
And I don't remember, then Dad sold out his hardware store in 1915, tore it down. And he built the church. We moved the old wooden church out in the street, closed the street. So we could have church.
oh,
Well, we built a new brick one.
uh-huh.
Then when we got the new one and moved in it, why Dad bought the old church, tore it down, and that's what the big corn crib is up on the farm. It's made out of Dad's hardware store and the church.
It is. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they ain't half a dozen new sticks in the thing, I don't believe.
Is that right?
It's practically all made out of the old church and Dad's hardware store.
Well, how come? Well, I didn't realize
Had new
that.
shingles on it, but yeah, that was made out of those two, the old church and Dad's old hardware store.
Well, what year was that?
1917.
1970.
1917. But the house and the barn was built in 1905.
But they're all new, though. They
They
were.
was all new lumber, yeah. And by golly, Dad told me that the labor cost on the house and the barn, all except putting the trim on downstairs, you know,
Uh-huh.
was $425.
Oh my gosh.
15 cents an hour for the carpenters, except when he wasn't there, he had another guy, kind of a foreman to look after it. He paid him a quarter. They worked 10 hours a day, $2.50. And they were mechanics too. They wasn't one of these wood butchers, they were
Yeah.
carpenters.
Well, then, did Grandpa sell out all the hardware store and everything? And then is that when he bought the farms up at Atkinson? Then, after he built
No,
the
no, he
church?
didn't buy the ranch up.
Well, let's back up. How come he sold out? Why? Was he just sick and tired of it? Or?
Oh, I guess he got a good price, and he got a threeplex up in Lincoln, and then he built a new 2-bedroom, story-and-a-half house on the back end of that lot. I can remember helping him work
Wait,
up there.
yeah, but where was that? I don't remember that.
Oh, that was on N Street, I think it was, N Street. about 26th and the end, between 26th and
So he
27th.
traded the hardware store for that then?
For that property, yeah.
Just traded even up then?
Oh, I don't know. I
Oh,
can't
you don't know
remember
whether he got
The
cash.
financial end, but anyway, he got, and then
Reason.
some salesman got a hold of him and wanted to sell him this ranch, see. And he went and mortgaged the home farm. Mother bawled, she didn't want to do it. But Leo, he thought he would really go up there and really raise thunder. And so him and Lad went up. Dad mortgaged the home place and that threeplex and that new house he had in Lincoln, mortgaged it. But he got a hold of some crooked real estate. They wasn't supposed to close, those notes wasn't supposed to come through for 3 years.
Oh,
In the meantime, at the end of 1 year, why gosh, they started wanting their money.
oh, so they pulled a fast one on him.
Yeah, they pulled a fast one on him. A lot of fellows told him to take the bankruptcy. Dad said, no. He couldn't meet his payments because it come due quicker than he thought it was supposed to. They
Well,
couldn't-
well, I know, but didn't they sign papers then, so he would have known? or
Yeah, but
something?
I don't know just how it was, but, oh, this fellow that took the papers, he went and sold some out to different banks, see, and these other banks only had it for a year, and they wanted their money, so they,
Oh,
see, I think that's how it happened.
sold some second mortgages on it or
Yeah,
something.
and anyway, they, banks that finally wound up with it, one was in Omaha and Dorchester and here and there. I think this Elmwood Bank had some of it. An old man Cobb was there. And, but if they'd dig up the records here, they'd find that. And so Dad just threw up his hands and let him have it. And he lost everything he had. And he
How big a
picked
farm was that up there?
1,200 acres.
Gee, don't you wish you had that now?
Yeah. So if we didn't know there was irrigation water like that, we could have saved it. But
Sure.
we didn't know there was water, only just to drink.
Yeah,
And that's where I met Esther.
yeah. What year was that?
And we got married in 22. And see,
No, but how long did you date
oh,
Mother?
I just knew Esther from 1920. See, we went up there in the spring of 1920, and I stayed up there that year. And then I come home a year and worked around, and then I went back up in the spring of 22, and that's when Esther and I got married.
No, but you met her in 20 and then went
Yeah.
back again.
And my hocus pocus, I told Dad, I said, she's a pretty high-priced daughter-in-law. Lost everything he had. You know, Dad was offered $450 for the home place, mine now, that in 1920, by Ole Olson. And
And
Dad
they-
said, no, he wanted 500. But he was offered 450 for it.
At that time, that had been a lot of money.
Oh, he was, yes. I hope to tell you.
But then he lost it in what year? 29?
No,
Yeah.
no, 21.
Well, I thought he lost it in the crash. Oh no, it wasn't really the crash yet then, was it?
What?
I thought he lost it in the crash, but that's not true.
No, we had a little crash in 21, I'll tell you.
Oh, did we?
Oh, yes.
Before
I'll
the
say,
stock
right
market?
Right after World War II.
One.
Or one.
Yeah.
World War I, a lot of things went to heck. Heck, we paid $1.65 for corn when it went up there, and that fall when we got through shucking it was worth 15 cents. We burned it in the stove rather than buy coal.
In what year did it fall that much? In 21?
You betcha. We went up there and had to buy corn to feed the horses, and it was $1.65. And that fall, when we got some raised, it was worth 10 and 15 cents. 10 cents. So we just used it in the old pot-bellied stove. Burned it to keep warm. Yeah. And Esther's all we got out of it. Oh, works. Dad owed $10,000 to boot, but he didn't have nothing but the clothes on his back and his furniture. That's all he had.
Yeah, so then,
And Esther and I, Mother and Dad lived in the farmhouse. I rented it. And
you
Esther-
rented the farm
Yeah,
from
after we
them?
lost it, I rented it.
From who? Who bought it?
Who didn't know it? Everybody. all these fellows had had mortgages on it.
Well, they all owned it, so that's who you rent it from then.
Yeah, but the big guy was a fellow by the name of Harasik. He owned a big bank in Omaha. I forget what the name of this thing was. What was the name of that? Harasik was the big shot of it, big Bohemian.
Well then, okay, so were they, were
Then
Grandpa,
we lived there with 1 year.
you lived there with Grandpa and Grandma 1
Yeah,
year?
for 1 year. And that's where Esther learned to cook from Mother and bake the rye bread.
Uh-huh.
And they moved to Lincoln and started to build houses. They built 640 South 33rd, and they lived there. Vera and Jack. See, Dad, Vera and Jack called it there, but I think Mother and Dad was in on it with them. I don't know how. Then they lived a year, and then Dad went over and bought some lots, 35D.
Yeah.
And he built 3509, lived in it a year, and he built 3501, and he sold 3509, and then he built 1110 on the back end of that lot.
Yeah, I remember
Then he
that.
went to 635 South 36th, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Built a house, and then he went to 33 and them, and that was his last one. Well, I don't know how many new homes Mother had. Gee, Willikers. Every one, she had it just like what she wanted. When she got it built and moved in, it wasn't the way it wanted at all. And she said the last one, 3300 M, was going to be exactly like she wanted. And she didn't get it. That little bedroom
Yeah,
was too small.
yeah.
That was the last new home she had.
No, but then how long did you and Mom live on the farm?
Till 1928. Sold out on Valentine's Day of 1928.
Well, then I was 4 years old. Did I live on the farm 4 years? Donna, 2 then?
Yeah. You was little snobs.
Well, then you just moved to Lincoln then?
Yeah, Dad said I better learn to trade and live with.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, oh, I didn't want, I wanted to be an old sodbuster. But he thought I'd better learn something. So I went up there and spent my whole life till 19.
Where, in Lincoln you mean? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I went to Lincoln then and worked with Dad and all the rest of them to learn something about construction.
Well,
Then in Dad died in 48 and I stayed there till 1950.
yeah,
And I come back out the farm. I had the 80 first and the
Sure.
moonlighted.
yeah.
Worked that all after suppers and Saturdays and Sundays. And then in 50, I finally got out of business in January the 1st, 1950. I got everything wound up. I got out of there. Squire took it.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I want you to go back and tell me about you and Squire riding horses or something. What was that?
Yeah,
How old was Squire? Or what were you doing? I can't
well,
remember.
Squire was about, I don't know, how old he was, 15. See, that was the first year we was up there in 1920, and he was 5 years younger than I was. He was about 14, 15. We had some cattle out in the big pasture, see. This old cow come home. We had a lot of hogs, cattle. This old cow come home and we knew she'd had a calf and she didn't have it with her. So Leo said, you better get on a couple of nags and go out there and hunt that calf. And it was raining. Misty. Had one didn't really have a good saddle horse, see. But that one that was kind of fat, and I said that, Squire, I said to you, you can ride Ted. He's nice and fat. But if you want me to ride that skinny old horse, I said, I'm going to have the saddle. I ain't going to ride on that old rib bone. So I put the saddle on this old driving nag. It's skinnier and all, get out. We went out and we rode and rode and rode and we couldn't find that thing. So we come home. And so we had a board fence you know, a couple of planks about 2 feet high,
Yeah.
so the cattle could hop over. The hogs had to stay in. See? Right inside of this board gate was a big old mud hole full of water. Squire said to me, he said, I'll show you how a horse can jump that. So he started his horse on a dead run, and he ran up there instead of him leaping over the old horse. Just stop. And he tried it again, and the old horse stopped. He would step over, but he wouldn't jump. See?
Yeah.
And by golly, this mud hole was about 6, 8 feet from the gate. I said, get that old nag away. I'll show you how a horse can jump that with this old skinny neck. And here I come, and she wouldn't gallop. She just trotted. And she would run up to the fence, and she reared up like that, and she caught her 2 front feet on the board. Just went over like that. And brother, I looked up, and her old tail was a-coming, and I lit the old spraddle like that right in the mud hole. And boy, when I seen her old tail a-coming, and boy, I just went scooting. And Squire, he like to fell off the horse laughing. He thought it was funny. There wasn't nothing funny about it, me. Boy, I'll tell you. Oh, and Squire, he used to tell that whenever he got down to someplace, you know, once in a while, he'd tell about this, you know. How
Yeah.
we was trying, we had a lot of fun, Squire and I. Squire and I was always a little closer than Leo and I. We played ball together. And all that.
Oh, yeah.
I picked and he caught.
Yeah.
I don't know, we always played together more. And,
Well,
oh, I have to tell you something fun. You know, we was kids. Dad had Squire, cultivating corn, and had 2 young mules. This cultivator took 3 horses. Had these 2 mules and 1 horse. And he was coming home for dinner. You know, he got hitched over there at noon, and we was farming. Somewhere over there where our 80 is there. And coming home at noon, he was standing up in this spring wagon. You know what a spring wagon is?
sure.
Putting it like an old buckboard, you know.
Yeah.
Had springs on it to bounce. And a car passed and scared these young mules, and they started running away. Joe Hamill lived there where his folks were cruises. And those old horses and mules were just coming as hard as they could run because the car scared them. See?
Mm-hmm.
And those days cars could scare horses. They didn't know what they were altogether. And so old Squire, he turned them into Joe Hamill where he lived. There Joe was just a little shaver. And Joe was standing there looking, you know, the horses come right at him. And so he started to run. And he just barely got out of the road. And one of the mule's legs hit Joe's.
Is that right?
Oh, just come that close to running over him, and they hit a bounce, you know, and the spring wagon hit a hole or something, and it's bounced, and Squire just went a sailing out of there, and he lit on an old hen and killed it. And away with the teeth, you know, running around over the farm. Yeah, Squire lit right on this old hen. Hen was trying to get out of the road too, and Joe and Squire lit on this hen. By golly.
Well,
Oh, Joe tells about that to this day.
he remembers it then.
Oh, Joe, yeah, you ought to hear Joe tell it. Boy, he was running for dear life, and just one of the horse's legs hit him. He just
Oh, gee.
pretty near got out of the road. Standing up in a spring wagon on that,
Sure.
springs on him, and it hit something that bounced, and the old Squire just went sailing off. And he lit on this old hen and killed it. That was funny.
Oh, God.
Oh, we had some awful time. Oh, we used to have some awful time. But we got clear away from the subject of relatives here for some reason.
Well, yeah.
How come?
Well, I don't know. I just was talking about the family. You're telling me things.
Oh,
That's fine. That's what we want to do. Let's see. I don't know.
we stopped talking about the year Mother and Dad got married. And I don't know what it was. They must have got married about 92. And Leo was born in 94. They must have got married about 92.
Yeah. Well, then did you and Vera and Leo and everybody go to school in Waverly then?
Yeah. Oh, Vera and Leo, their first couple of years in school was up at the old Jordan schoolhouse, you know.
I don't know where that is.
Well, I'll show it to you someday. It isn't there anymore, but there's a little graveyard there. They see they had a church in the schoolhouse and the graveyard.
Well, where was that? Up
3
north?
miles north and a half a mile west
Of what? Of Waverly?
of Waverly, yeah.
Yeah.
See, Mother come to Waverly when she was 11 years old.
Well, where did she come from?
Well, her mother and her lived in Lincoln. And they, because see, Mother had an uncle. Her mother's brother run a blacksmith shop in Waverly.
Who was that?
John Berg.
Oh, John Burke.
He was the second man to come to Waverly. The first man to ever land in Waverly was a man by the name of Green. And then John Berg come to Waverly, started a blacksmith shop. And then a few years later, her mother moved to Waverly. Then she married Grandpa Johnson, and I don't know where in the Tom Walker he come from.
All I
never did ask.
remember is that house after later on, it had all the medicine on the shelf.
Oh, he lived on medicine, he called it.
Medicine?
Yeah. He always says, I gotta take some medicine. Then he'd want to come up and help me a little bit once in a while, and then after he'd worked a day or so, he had to take care of Grandma. She was an invalid. Oh, goodness, he said, I feel just like I went through a corn shell. He said,
Well, he must have come from Sweden then too, huh?
oh yeah, he come from Sweden.
Now that was who? John Johnson?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really know where he came from, or
He come from Sweden, but I don't know where Grandma Johnson met him.
that was her second husband. right?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Well, let's see.
And then Grandpa John, when Dad had the hardware store, he worked in the hardware store
Oh,
for
did
Dad
he?
to fix and harness and shoes. Dad run a harness shop too in there. Grandpa John, he done all the fixing harnesses, you know, for
Yeah.
the farmers
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. He worked there. He was the harness man. Mother worked in the store. Oscar Anderson worked for Dad in the store, and Nels Buffman. And he'd make me and I come home from school out of a little spurt, take a big old feather duster and dust the buggies off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then he gave me orders. All of us kids had bicycles. I had the privilege to, he had an order book, you know.
Yeah.
I had charge of running everything for the bicycles. They needed new spokes,
Yeah.
rubber tires. So on my bicycle, I got all the high-class stuff. I put down motorcycle hand grips
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Get them on there and Dad ordered them. Put them on my bike. He said, no, Dad, he gave me a little shotgun. I wish I'd never traded that shotgun off. He gave me a little .22 rifle, and I wasn't much bigger than John. Oh, that's much bigger. And then that little shotgun was like a ninny. They don't even make them anymore. They're out of style. Smaller than the 410. And I wish I'd never traded that thing. I'm going to give it to Rex. I tried my best to get it, find out where it is. I'm still going to hunt some more. Might find it yet.
Well,
And then in 1921, Dad lost the place.
no, but you were graduating from school then, though, weren't you?
Ooh, 21?
You, yes. You had graduated from, no, you didn't graduate from
No.
high school.
I was going up to Ag, and then I had my draft card, Class 1A.
Yeah.
So I figured that's where I'd be out there. Someplace in the Army, because all my buddies were gone, but I hadn't called me, and I couldn't figure that out. And then the thing was over before they got to my number. I never went back to school then, because I figured I'd be on the road to France.
Yeah. Well, see, you went to Waverly through the 8th grade,
Yeah, way through the 8th grade.
and then went to the Ag College.
And I went to Ag College 2 years. And then the war was going to pick me up, see. I had my draft card A1A.
Yeah.
Had 2 years of ROTC, and I knew I wouldn't be in this country very long. That much.
2 years ROTC at the Ag College? You did? Well, I didn't know you went to Ag College 2 years.
Yeah,
I thought you only went about 1 year.
no, so
Well, then did
when I got
Vera?
kicked out, you know, I was taking chemistry. And we went to chemistry lab, you know,
Yeah.
and they lined you up alphabetically order. So my last name is A. So the old druggist down the way where he told me how to do it.
Yeah.
He said, when everybody gets their fire going in chemistry, you know how you used to melt glass when you were first starting and all that stuff. He said, everybody gets to going good. He said, you want to have a little fun. He said, just put your mouth over the jet, you know, the little pipe come along.
Yeah.
He said, shut yours off, see, and get your mouth over the jet, and then you open it up, blow some air in real quick. And he said, when you get yours back to fire again, get to work. And he says, and that old air to go down the line, put that guy's fire out, another one, then another one. And I was having a big time. Remember the lab we had, you know, about putting the fires out. See? One day the old professor, he just figured there was something going on. See? He just went out in the hall, hid behind the door, and I thought he was long gone. And I had my big old mouth over that thing, and he come back in. That was the end of me. And I didn't care. I didn't want to be I didn't care about chemistry. So he sent me over to the old superintendent, Harry E. Bradford. He said, that's end of you here, boy. I got kicked out of chemistry. He said, well, you got your choice. You can take farm machinery or poultry. Who wants to mess with poultry? And myself. I said, I'll take farm machinery. I know all about that. Thought I did. I went to first class. And old prof said, now one semester practically gone, so you know, starting the second semester. He says the problem for tomorrow is to figure out how much an 18-inch moldboard sulky plow, how much horsepower it take to pull it. Boy, my old hair just curled. I thought, holy smoke. I'd have to go cut back the front of the book, you know, and learn all the weather. I was stumped. I said, well, why didn't I take poultry? They couldn't figure out nothing like that on an old hand. And, how much power it took to lay an egg, really. My golly. But I liked it. I got to go along pretty good with that stuff. And I had to take blacksmithing, carpenter work. I made a joint one time. That was funny. You know, what they call that a joint. I can't remember. Morse tenon joint or something. And it was a crooked thing. And I had to put these two pieces together and get it. And I thought I had it pretty good, see. And I thought I'd make it a little better. So I took a little more off. And holy smoke, I could see the whole world through it there, man, that joint. And so I poked it full of sawdust.
Yeah.
And spit on it, tapped the sawdust in that joint. And boy, then I wiped it all off and I sandpapered it. Boy, it just looked like it grew together. I took it up to the old prof to get a grade on it. Put his old opticals on there, turned it over. Give it a hit on the desk, you know, a heck of a rap, and boy, all my sawdust fell out. He said, here, go back and make another one. Holy smoke. You ever make one of those things with woodwork? You ever take woodwork?
Never did.
Didn't mount the hill of beams, you know, making joints, you know, those things. And I took blacksmith and learned how to weld.
Did you?
Yeah. And then I pretty got kicked out of that because I played hooky one day and went ice skating on New Year's Day, I think it was.
Well, why would they have school on New Year's Day?
They did. I tell you, we had a kid from over in Iowa in the same room in the house that I was in. And his name was Carpenter, someplace in Iowa. And he was quite a cripple. And we coaxed him to ride on the bulletin board out in front of the Ag Hall,
Mhm.
class's excuse for the rest of the day.